Hi, Paul Pearson here with a final broadcast discussing Daniel's 70th week of 7 year chart. And just to go over some of the things that we've done, of course, we talked about how the book of Revelation is the most important book talking about the end times and that it needs to be divided in two. Chapter 1 through 11 is discussing certain events, and then chapter 12 through 22 is discussing many of those same events, and then with added information and perspective in the last 11 chapters of Revelation. Also, the talking about that the tribulation period is not all 7 years; it is only the first 3.5 years, and then a 75-day period of great tribulation at the midpoint. That's when the Antichrist takes full control. And then the rapture of believers, the saints, and then the wrath of God being poured out on this wicked world. So just a little bit going into the last part where we didn't really discuss it as detailed as I wanted to. I don't know whether you could see, well, you don't need to see the chart, I guess, too much now, but here we go. Now, we talked about, at the end of my last broadcast, Leviticus chapter 25, verses 9 through 10. And it talks about the 10 days after the midpoint of the Hebrew year, the Day of Atonement takes place in the year of Jubilee. The trumpet will sound on that day. The year of Jubilee is the 50th year. Every 50 years, there's a Jubilee period where everybody receives their land back, their inheritance and all that. It's a good picture of the rapture of believers, that we will get our inheritance at that time when we are at the second coming of Jesus Christ, when we are raptured to be with the Lord forever. And so anyway, that Jubilee trumpet will sound on that day, that 50th year. The 10th day of the 7th month corresponds exactly with the 1,335 days of Daniel's 70th week. And that's talking to Daniel about how he will, is not to worry about these prophecies, that it's not going to happen for a very long time, and you will rest, but then you will stand in your lot at the end of those 1,335 days. Well, that he will. Daniel, the Old Testament Daniel, will stand with all believers from the Old Testament and New Testament after that 1,335 days, where Christ comes back for his believers. The 10th day of the 7th month is the 190th day of the year, divided by 7, since we are only dealing with a single calendar year as opposed to the 7 years of Daniel's 70th week. On that day, the trumpet will sound, and we will be caught up together in the clouds to be with the Lord eternally. And that's found in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 57, I believe. And then the last little bit of information here is Revelation chapter 2:10. Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Although the great tribulation will last for 75 days, the time, let's see if I can see here. Time from the midpoint of the Hebrew calendar to the 10th day of the 7th month is 10 days. Of course, we're only talking about a single year when you're talking about those 10 days. But when you're talking stretched over a 7-year period, we're talking about 75 days of great tribulation that will happen. One other thing I wanted to do, just if I can get to it quickly, I don't know whether I can or not, but this will finish off our presentation here. Let's see if I can come to it. In Revelation chapter 19, Revelation 19, and see if I can get to that quickly. Revelation 19. Okay, beginning at verse 11. And this is speaking of the end times. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. This is talking about the battle of Armageddon. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. Of course, that's all believers that have been resurrected and are coming with Christ at the Battle of Armageddon. And this is talking about Jesus, of course. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations that were coming against Christ in the end times. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the